Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 220 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, before we get started here, I just wanted to note I did have to adjust the date in the intro.
Oh, no.
You had the wrong date in there, man. Come on.
Hey, dude, it's the off season. Come on. Cut me some slack.
It is the off season, and as we've promised and teased for a while, we have a special guest here with us tonight. The winner of the what is the official name of the fantasy league, James?
Let's just call it the Super Speedway Fantasy League.
All right, the winner of
yeah.
Is he two-time winner? Did he win last year too?
Back to back.
Yeah,
right?
As I thought. Ranger Runyan is here to join us. Ranger, how's it going?
Yes, I think I've won 3.
Probably.
You might have won 3. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because
it's possible.
I remember
tried to
my
forget
very
it.
first year. My very first year, if you probably don't remember, but I missed the Daytona week.
Okay.
And
Yes,
I came in
that.
behind, and I had to catch up the whole season, and I ended up winning it that year. So I think I've won 3.
And
That's
that
how
shows how good we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
I try to forget the seasons, but the problem is I've gotten a little bit closer the last 2 years, and it just hurts a little bit more. Even though I'm trying.
Last year.
Yeah, and I try to get there, but I just can't seem to get the job done. But man, you're gonna have to maybe off the air give us some of your secrets, because there's
No way.
no beating you straight up.
No way.
Well, Eric,
I don't give out my secrets.
If you only knew how much James was plotting, how bad he wanted to get you at the end. It was so
serious.
funny.
It got.
I
serious.
remember you guys talking about that at one of the last shows, and saying you guys were even tracking the starts of my guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It got serious. Oh yeah.
Man, that is serious.
Yeah.
That is very serious.
The problem is you dangled the carrot just enough where I got just close enough that it was like, a Hail Mary away for me, and I threw a Hail Mary, and it completely disaster.
Yeah,
which is
100 points. 100 points in that fantasy league is not a lot, and I think
that's what I was saying.
Was 100.
I had some hope. That's what I said. The carrot, man, you dangled it in front of me, and then you just crushed me.
We have to understand too that like in our fantasy league, Todd, who's our buddy, actually works for NASCAR, and he's in the league as well, and he's a statistical nut. So to be able to smoke him too, that's a pretty good accomplishment.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and he for Todd, we should probably defend him just a little bit. It's ever since he started working for NASCAR, he's been worse. So
yeah, well, he can't. He's not allowed. Well, I'm sure he probably could, but he's a good employee, a good NASCAR employee. NASCAR, if you're listening, and he doesn't use his bench when he's in the tower. So
yes, yeah. So he's stifled just a little bit. But.
Yeah.
But regardless, there's been no stopping Ranger the last couple seasons. So
no, I put a lot of thought into that fantasy league every single week, and I stress out way more than I need to.
It's too bad there's no money up for grabs.
Right.
I'm not gonna start. I'm not starting anything.
Yeah, right. Are you putting some money up, James? Is this your announcement, James?
Never. No. I'm too broke, man. I'm too broke.
$100 a piece.
There you go. Yeah.
For a race, right?
Yes.
Are you in any other fantasy leagues for NASCAR? Is ours your only one, or are you in a few other ones?
That's the only one.
Wow.
I put my heart and soul into that one, and that's all I had.
That's
Dang.
crazy.
I almost feel bad that you're wasting your time with us.
Yeah, you got to get on like DraftKings or something, man.
Right?
Well, see, I also won my fantasy football league this year for the third year in a row.
So you're on a run on no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah.
So
much,
without giving up your secrets, is it a statistics thing? Is it just is it luck? It's not luck, right? It's skill.
There is a lot of luck, but I always try to plan ahead.
Okay.
I always try to make sure I have starts at the end of the season, and saving guys like Kyle Busch for Bristol. Make sure I have one of those or whatever. It's a lot of planning ahead.
Gotcha.
And he gave you a little bit there. Not
yeah,
a whole
right.
lot, but
Gave you a little bit.
I'm jotting down some notes.
Right.
When they stopped doing practice and qualifying, that got hard. That got really hard, because it was easy to look at the practice speeds and the qualifying speeds and try to pick some guys. And
Yeah.
If Ross Chastain is fast in practice, that's an easy start for the week or whatever.
See,
but they stopped doing that, and that really put a damper on my strategy.
Do you listen
I
to any of
used
the
to like
fantasy
the-
shows or anything like that? I know like Sirius does the fantasy show on the weekends. Do you listen to those or just it's all you?
Not for NASCAR.
Okay.
I listen to a lot of them for football.
Okay.
I listen to Matthew Berry. He's a
I'm familiar with that.
character.
Huh.
Yeah, you're right about practice though, because I always my go-to was always the 10-lap average. I'd be okay. I'm looking at the 10-lap averages. I'm like, okay, this guy's consistent.
Always look for the 10-lap average.
Yep, and now hopefully it's back this year though.
Well, I don't know.
So
You're gonna get 10-lap averages on a 15-minute practice session.
They're gonna be protecting those bad boys as much as possible, from what I hear. So.
Right.
I am glad they're bringing us some kind of practice.
Yeah.
Some kind of qualifying. I'm glad it's just not some math equation that you have to go to Harvard to be able to solve.
Right. Yeah, we gave up trying to figure it out and just
I just got on Jeff Gluck's Twitter or whatever and see who was on pole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bob Pockrass is usually the one who can figure it out. He's the only one smart enough.
Right.
Bob is the Adam Schefter of NASCAR.
That's right. That's right.
He is.
Him and Jordan Bianchi's making a run for it lately, but yeah, he's definitely right up there.
See, the one that messed with me was, and it affected me a little bit on the regular race weekends. And I didn't watch a lot of practice when I was watching on TV, but when I was there, what really screwed with me is not knowing what the cars were going to look like, because everybody runs different paint schemes every week now. You didn't know what the car looked like till the race started.
Pretty much, yeah.
It was weird.
Yep.
So, Ranger, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you come across the podcast? Because you've been a long time listener.
Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Okay.
I listen to podcasts for football. I listen to podcasts for wrestling. And sometimes I'll just get on the podcast app and I'll just type in something. And I listen to a couple other NASCAR podcasts, but not fantasy ones. Like Boyer had a podcast there for a while with Dave Portnoy. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
My
James is a big fan.
Big fan of Dave.
I love his pizza shows.
Yeah.
Pizza shows are bad.
But sometimes I'll just go on the podcast app and type in something. And I think I typed in NASCAR one time and found the show. And I think you guys are two really cool dudes and tuned in. And I signed up for the Patreon a long time ago. I think I pay like $1 a month.
Yeah.
Helped get Eric to the track for a little bit.
You were one of two patrons. That was awesome. We appreciate that.
Yes. I helped pay for a bottle of water.
Right.
Yeah. My wife would say she's a patron too, actually. So
to be honest, you probably paid for my subscription to Gluck's patron for a while. So
there we go. It all evens out.
Paying it forward.
Right.
It all evens out.
Yeah.
Ranger, we've been messaging back and forth a little bit, so I feel like I got a little bit of insight into like your fandom and maybe a Dale Jr. fan and stuff. But I wanted to ask you about how you got into the sport.
I've got a huge case of Dale Jr. cars behind me.
I see that.
I see. Yeah, I can kind of see him back there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been a fan for many years now, or is it something that's fairly new to you?
I think I started watching in '95.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay, so you go back quite a bit.
Yeah, I moved to the town I live in now, and my stepdad's brother was a diehard Earnhart fan.
That's usually how it
got
starts.
me watching that. Yeah, and he got me watching NASCAR, and then I started playing the video games because the NASCAR video games then were a lot better than the NASCAR video games we have now.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they actually functioned.
Yeah, they actually work, and they don't release the game with a ton of bugs,
right?
And all that good stuff. But yeah,
Man,
I've been watching.
Fit right in with this crowd.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know, right? I've been watching NASCAR since the '90s.
Yeah,
and I was a Dale Senior fan, and moved on to Junior, and
now that's our era, man. You've been listening for a long time, Eric and I have a thing for the '90s, especially. I think me too. But that was my man. Those were the days, and I felt like everybody was an Earnhardt fan back then. He was either Earnhardt or Gordon, and then you had like the offshoot Mark Martin fans, and man, that was just a fun time to kind of grow up in the sport. That and we're to where we are now. I mean, it's a whole different ball game, but man, it's like
it's changed a lot. NASCAR has changed a ton.
Yep.
Yeah, and this year's another step in that evolution.
It is. I have high hopes for this season. My hopes for this season are as high as they could be.
Yeah, I'm much more optimistic now that we're looking at a higher horsepower package, and hopefully, I mean, cars that will hopefully run better on the road courses, and the Atlanta experiment's interesting. We'll see what happens there. But
Atlanta is going to be weird.
Yeah,
I know a lot of the drivers aren't happy about it.
Yeah.
But as far as the cars go, with the engine package, and I believe they have less downforce,
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of hopes that the racing is going to be better on a lot of tracks where it's been subpar, like Richmond.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Yeah, Richmond's been a big disappointment. Some of the mile and a halves are finally coming around, but I don't know. I'm nervous about Atlanta because every time we put new pavement down somewhere, it's a mess. But I don't know. Maybe it'll do what they want it to do with this mini super speedway thing. So you're a Junior fan. Where have you gone since Junior left?
I don't have a favorite driver,
okay.
And I think that's what makes me a little bit lucky at the fantasy is I'm not pulling for anybody.
Gotcha.
When I was a Junior fan and he wouldn't win, I thought the race was terrible and I'd be upset all week. But now that I don't root for anybody and I can just watch the sport for the sport, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. I agree.
So, I don't root for anybody.
I've got my favorites, and obviously I'm a Kyle Busch fan, but that's like a small part of it. I appreciate the sport in general, and in fact, I root against him sometimes too.
Yeah, I have a couple favorites. I think Ryan Blaney's really good.
Yeah.
I think he has a lot of talent. Kyle Busch he's a really good wheel man. You can't say wheel man without saying Kyle Larson.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't have a favorite.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I've talked about that on the show often. Like ever since Tony retired, I've kind of been lost in the wilderness, and I'm like you guys. I've got my favorites. I got guys who I appreciate too, but it's very hard when you've got and Junior was a nice transition from Dale Senior. I know the circumstances weren't great, but that gave fans a bridge and gave somebody to really root for, and it's hard to bridge that gap when your favorite driver's gone. It'd be like if your favorite football team, we were joking before the show, you got that Tampa Bay Bucks hat on. If that team just went away, what would you do if your team just went away? Now, as a Lions fan, I pray that my team just goes away.
Well, I mean, Tampa's been bad for a long time, so if they just went away, it'd just be like the previous 10 years, I guess.
Right.
Except for last year.
Right.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know that I've not had like a diehard driver that's my guy since Davey Allison died. I mean, I've
Really?
rooted for guys. I've I was a Stewart fan for a while, but I've kind of bounced around. Kyle's probably the closest I've had to a legit driver at this point, but just my position in the sport now makes it tough to cheer for one. And I like a good race, man. I want to see excitement.
Yeah.
I'd take my guy losing the race if it meant that there was a good battle at the end. So,
yeah,
I hate it when there's no passing.
Yeah,
when there's a caution and they drop the green and everybody falls in line, nobody can pass anybody. Those races are really hard to watch.
I agree.
Yeah, and I'm hoping with this new car that is not as bad as it's been, and I feel like NASCAR has taken some steps in the right direction. And honestly, you guys, when I saw the Daytona test, that was the first time I felt like, okay, this thing looks like NASCAR racing, because I was worried for Eric knows I've been griping and complaining for a long time, but that Daytona test came and that looked like Daytona, and there wasn't a whole lot, and I was just that made me feel more comfortable. I don't know about I don't know how you guys felt about that, but I was pumped to see what I saw.
Yeah, it definitely felt better.
I was pumped to see what I saw. The cars, they sound a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, James is a big fan of the sound too. He really likes the sound.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I thought of the other day that I wanted to bring up on the show. During that Daytona test, did you guys notice the skew on the 43 car?
Yeah.
I
see that, Eric?
I saw it pointed out on Reddit after the fact.
I think
they were the only car.
Yeah. It looked like it was an extreme version of what does skew do to these cars? Like they were just trying to collect data, because they can't run the car that way from what I understand.
No.
But yeah, they were really wampus coming down the. I can't remember.
It was crazy looking.
The
And it
thing
was
is like we've
skewed to the left, which was crazy too.
how many
Yeah.
times have we come up with these rules to get rid of skew and get rid of flat sides and make the thing, symmetrical, and they always end up back to a twisted race car. It's it'll happen
Yeah.
again. Don't worry,
It
it's
will
coming.
happen again.
Yeah.
And see, when they came out with this new car, I thought a lot of that would be gone away with for a while because the teams always find a way. But then the very first test of the very first year for this new car, and there's a crab out there running
Mhm.
around.
Crab walk. Yep, the infamous crab walk.
These guys are way too smart to sit on their hands for too long.
They are. They are.
Especially when they have only got 2 cars apiece right now to massage and groom.
Right.
They're probably going crazy that they don't have a full fleet, so they're really picking at these cars.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now.
Can't imagine Chad Knaus is sitting in a garage somewhere at Hendrick and not telling these
Right.
guys to fiddle with this and fiddle with that,
Yeah, Rodney Childers at Stuart Haas too. He's another
Yep.
infamous. He's poking and prodding at that thing too. And Eric, that came up at Daytona Test too, was the fact that they don't have a whole lot of cars yet, and what's going to happen if we wad these things up in Daytona? I mean, they're pushing the limit as it is right now, so that's going to be interesting to keep an eye on here as we move forward towards the season with the Clash coming up. And
I was going to say, before we get to Daytona, we got to deal with ripping body panels off at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
right. Ranger,
Are
what are your
they-
thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on the Coliseum? I wanted to pick.
Are
your
they
brain on that
using
one.
the new car for that race?
Yes.
Yeah, they are. Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
they're all in on that new car. That sucker's running dirt. That sucker's running road courses. It's running everything.
Yep.
They are going to destroy some cars there.
Yeah. Well, if you read the comments on Twitter or whatever after that commercial during the NFL game a couple weeks ago, fans don't think the cars are going to go fast enough to crash. But I assure you, those cars will find a way to wad up. And
I've
will-
seen some
they
big
will
wrecks
find
at
a way.
Martinsville.
Yeah. They
A lot of
will
people
find a
haven't-
way.
A lot of people haven't been to quarter-mile ovals at their local short track and seen what kind of damage can actually be done with race cars on a small track.
Right. A true
How-
half-mile asphalt track is like a super speedway for a late model. I mean, you
Yeah.
can get going pretty good on a quarter mile.
How many cars are going to be in that race? 20-ish?
Yeah, 23, I think, is the feature.
There's
if I remember
about
correctly.
30 to 35 that are coming to try to make the show. So it's going to be a lot of cars there, but yeah, in the 20s for the actual race itself. So
It's going to be like the conveyor belt at Bristol.
Yeah.
yeah, I was poo-pooing this thing for a while.
You're
as
getting
I
excited
do.
now that you've seen it built, aren't you?
I mean, I'm just ready for racing.
Yeah, I'm
so
with
let's
ya.
get it going.
So am
let's
I.
just get it going.
So am I.
It's funny. The off season I feel like is the shortest off season, but it's long towards the end. I don't know.
Right.
I get that feeling. I
it
get this feeling every
feels
time.
longer this year than normal. I don't know what it is, but it feels longer to me.
I'll
Yeah.
blame the pandemic.
Right.
There you go.
Everything
Blame
feels
COVID.
longer.
So Ranger, we don't need to get specific, but whereabouts in the country are you from?
Indiana.
Okay,
Oh, so
perfect.
you're not too far.
I
We're
live-
kind of we're neighbors.
I live in it's a decent sized town, but it's a small town called Terre Haute.
Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Familiar with that?
Yeah. Indianapolis Colts used to come here and do their preseason.
You ever make
wanna
it
call
up? You ever make it up into our neck of the woods here in Michigan from time to time?
No, I've never been to Michigan.
Man, well, you're missing out. But you got to go past where we are.
Yeah.
You got to go like way up
Yeah.
there.
Don't
Yeah.
stop in Detroit because Detroit is
Yeah,
not a good
there's nothing
representation of
there.
what Michigan is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't want to go
No,
there.
you got to keep going. You got to keep going.
Yeah.
Usually, if I go anywhere, I go the other direction. And last summer, we went to Florida. That was a pretty good
Ah, there you
time.
go. See, that's smart. You go where it's warmer. That's
Yes.
definitely a better thing.
How about
Um,
NASCAR? Do you go to races regularly? Have you been to any of them?
Never been to a race.
Never been to a race.
Whoa, we got
Never.
okay.
Yeah.
So we've got a goal that we've got to achieve here then.
Right.
Eventually, in the next couple of years, we might have to get you to a race, man.
That
Yeah.
would be awesome. Yeah. No,
Yeah, you're in a good part of the country too to be able to. Well, it was a little bit better before they shut down all the Midwestern races, but
Yeah. I've been to the Indy track
okay,
when I was in high school. I think we went for the Indy 500 like pole day,
gotcha.
Yep.
but I've never been to a NASCAR event.
Man, that I feel like that is so rare that you are able to become a fan and then stay a fan as long as you have
Right.
without actually being to a race. I feel like you're a rare breed in that sense.
Well, I haven't stayed a fan the whole time.
Okay.
I kind of gave up NASCAR 2014, 15,
Mm-hmm.
and I came back when Junior was retiring.
Gotcha.
I came
Oh,
back
okay.
during his retirement tour, and I've been going strong ever since.
Well,
Okay.
that's awesome, man. That's great that you were able to find your way back. Cause that's
Yeah.
something I honestly like. I've struggled with it from time to time too. I have my hard times with NASCAR in recent years, but the sport keeps pulling me back and pulling me
Shoot.
back.
As it is,
Yeah.
we still got to get James back to the track because it's been a couple of years.
Yeah, I know. I was planning on it this year, and
Yeah.
then dang COVID and stuff. But hopefully by the time MIS comes around, we'll be back going to the track at least by then. I mean, God, if I can't get to the track by August, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Because I told Eric I got the itch, man. I need to get somewhere. I don't even care.
Maybe I'll
where.
get that itch one of these days.
Well, man, we'll have to get you. We'll have to get you to one. We'll have to figure out something.
We were really
be awesome.
close. My wife actually suggested recently that we take a trip to Florida this winter, and I'm like, February? She's like, yeah, we could, but we have some things here that's going to keep us in Michigan. So bailing on the 500 this year, but maybe just next year I might be able to make my way down for the 500. So
Yeah.
so what do you got a bucket list track? You got a track you like? What if you had the opportunity tomorrow to go to a race? What track would you choose first?
I'd love to go to a Daytona race.
Okay.
Okay.
I would love to see Daytona. I'd love to see Bristol.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Martinsville.
Yep.
If they can fix Richmond with this new car, I would like to see Richmond because I think Richmond is a very underrated track. It's been great, and I think
It's had
it
its
can be
moments,
great
man.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it can. I think it can be great again. I'd love to go to Richmond.
From a fan's perspective too, I mean, I've not been to Richmond, but the shape of the track, you would think the layout would be really good for a fan to be able to see the whole thing and
Yeah.
not be blocked at all. But yeah, unfortunately, the racing there just has left a lot to be desired the last few years.
Yep. And with a couple of guys here you're talking to who have been to Daytona, I mean, the 500 is definitely a festival of events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd actually like to go to, if I went back to Daytona, I don't know if I'd go to the 500. I actually would consider going to the end of the season finale now,
Yeah.
because I
The
feel like
400.
I think that's a great time of year, and I would go for the race. But I think if you go to Daytona, you can't go wrong. I mean, you got the beach. It's a lot of NASCAR history down there. That's a great spot if you ever make it down that way.
Plus, it used to be that 400 race was always 4th of July weekend.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep. They had all kinds of fireworks and stuff.
I will say
they moved it.
if you do the 500, do them all. Do all the races that week. I did the truck race and the cup race. I did not do the Xfinity race, and that was pretty good because I got to experience the track under the lights, and then got to experience the 500. So kind of got the best of both worlds. I went in 2011, the year of the tandem draft, the year that Trevor Bayne won. And so I kind of got gypped as far as the pack racing at Daytona, but I got it in the truck race because the truck race was still a lot of pack racing. So, but I was bummed I didn't go to the Xfinity race too. There's just so much stuff that goes on. It's worth being there the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Were you there the whole week? Did you go to the duels?
No, I have family that has a place in the wintertime in Leesburg, which is about 2 hours from the track. So we went down and stayed with them. We sent them our tickets down, so they went to the duel the week before, because back then it was actually the weekend before it. And they're not NASCAR fans; they didn't really enjoy it, but the tickets were free because they came with the 500 tickets. So they got to go to that, and then we went down. We got there Thursday. I actually was on a plane during the dual races on Thursday, and then we went to the track super early Friday morning. We spent the entire day there Friday for practice and all that stuff.
I would love to go to a track and spend if I'm going to go, I want to spend the whole day. I don't want to just show up for race time.
We used to camp at Michigan, and we'd go down to Michigan on Monday, and we'd stay all the way through the week and then to the following Monday. And that was awesome. We walked right across the street to the track, never got in a car the whole week. It was just the greatest.
That's awesome.
Nothing cooler than being at the track when nobody's there yet.
Yeah. One thing that I was so sad about my Florida trip was originally we were going to go to Orlando.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I said, well, on the way by, I don't care what we do once we get to Orlando. I want to go by Daytona. I just want to see it.
And it's
I
not.
just
It's
want to
not
see.
that far. It's not that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to see the big sign. That's all I want to do. We don't even have to stop. I just want to drive by it. And then a couple weeks later, my sister sends me a message and says, we're not going to Orlando. We're going to Panama. And I was like, oh no, that ruined my whole vacation almost. I just wanted to see Daytona.
I will say it's incredible to watch a race there, but even if you get a chance just to tour the track on a non-race weekend, that was my first experience with Daytona. I went in 2002, and after Ward won the 500, got to tour the track, and then we got to see the Daytona 500 winning car. That was incredible in its own, and just the thing with the track is just to look at the banking and look at how it seems wide on TV, but when you're there, it's not wide. And to look at that and go, how in the heck do they fit 3 wide around this thing?
Yeah.
And then the first time to see cars go around it is just, it's something. I get chills talking about it, man.
Yeah.
And they're doing it at 190 miles an hour too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's incredible. Right. Incredible.
Well, and you know, that's kind of anywhere you go to. Like Eric and I went to Eldora all those years, and I'm like, they're gonna put trucks around here. I mean, I had been to Eldora before, but we couldn't. That first truck race at Eldora, Eric and I were the whole way down. We're like, how are they gonna do this?
Yeah.
Like, this is not gonna work. And sure enough, man, they figured it out.
I've been to dozens of races now, and I still get fascinated when they put 40 cars through the first turn and don't wreck. I mean, that's just incredible to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's So you've got the full sale from us. We got to get you to a race, man. You got to go at some point.
I'm in.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm in.
All right, cool.
Sounds good. Well, Ranger, we thank you for joining us today.
No problem.
We'll certainly be in touch with you. We haven't made any official announcements on the fantasy this year, but I would imagine we're going to do it again because
it'll be back.
I would hope.
We do it every year much to our chagrin to basically give you a trophy at the end of the season. So
yeah.
All right.
The virtual trophy. That's right.
Right. So yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll probably have
no problem.
When we got some time, we'll have you on again. It was good chatting with you today for sure. So
yeah, absolutely, man.
Anytime you guys want me to come on, I'm here.
Awesome.
That sounds good.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for Ranger to joining us, James. That was a good conversation with him.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Yeah,
that was good.
We got a little bit to talk about. There's probably more news to discuss, I think, but you did the notes here. You got a few things.
I kept
on
it short
here.
and sweet.
It's good enough, man. We don't need to spend hours on this. This will probably, I'm assuming, be our last one before we kick the season
the
off.
Clash,
so.
yeah.
So we talked a little bit with Ranger about Daytona testing. Anything else that you think's worth hitting on with the testing at Daytona, James? I watched a little bit of it. I had it streaming a little bit while I was at work, but didn't watch it religiously.
I mean, the speeds were down. 3 seconds a lap.
I just don't care about the speeds.
At Daytona, some tracks I think that's a little less tolerable, but at Daytona, if they're slowing them down and they're still in the 180s, it doesn't really bother me. It was a note that came up.
Yeah.
Dale Jr. was out there.
Yeah.
They asked him to get into the draft, and he just kind of rode at the back of the draft. That was really cool to see Jr. out there.
What was your line you told us in our chat about Jr. running Larson's car?
Oh, this is the closest he's ever been to a championship.
I wanted to make sure that was in the pod.
Oh man, we should have saved that for when Ranger was there. I kid. Come on, don't come at me, Junior Nation. I'm sorry.
The speed thing just doesn't bother me. I get that people are all bent out of shape, that the Xfinity cars are going to be faster than the Cup cars at tracks and have been the past couple of years. But man, I don't ever remember going to a track and going, oh, look at that speed. Oh, look at that speed. I mean, I guess the only time I've ever noticed is at California when they had the speedometer up in the corner and you could see how fast they were in a turn. I don't care otherwise.
Well, when I went to Michigan after that repave, I was full blown into the speed at that point because they were running. I mean, they were going into the corners at almost, what was it, Eric? Were they getting almost to 230?
I know they were at 220 easily.
Yeah, they were definitely 220, 225 maybe even.
Yeah.
The qualifying laps were over 205
right
to the corner. So I mean, that was
Yeah, I'll
that
give
was
you
a
that,
time-
but it's not a normal thing.
no, it's not really a normal thing.
And once those
It's
things get out
just-
on the track, you really, I mean, you
Yeah.
can notice 10 miles an hour, but man, when there's a bunch of them out there, let's put it this
Yeah.
way, James, I would prefer they go 100 miles an hour around the track and race side by side and pass than to go 300 miles an hour single file.
Right.
Period.
Right.
I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
that's why I don't watch drag racing, because drag racing, yeah, they go 300 miles an hour, but who cares?
I really, part of me though, there's still part of me that feels like the threshold for the 1.5 and above tracks is still 180. For some reason, that's the number in my head.
Yeah.
Like, don't go below 180. Like, we should be faster than that. And I don't have a rhyme or reason for that. It's just that's the number for whatever reason in my head. It's like, for whatever reason, 180 is the number.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, when I go to a local track, I want to go watch the super late models, but I also get great enjoyment out of the bomber class too. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I just appreciate good racing, and the speed's cool, but it's not why I'm there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess.
And I think that's part of it too, where I think that's where people get.
I mean,
a
don't
little
get me
bit-
wrong. I'd rather they go faster and race well too,
Right.
but I'd
Right.
rather they race well.
And this is the highest form of stock car motorsport in the world. So as long as these cars are challenged to drive and
Yeah.
race hard, and these guys are now able to show their skill a little bit more, that's what we want. I mean, speeds be damned. Heck, F1 races at Monaco, and that ain't nothing special other than the venue.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're flying around that place. So
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. It's a talking point. I think we need to keep an eye on it, but I don't think it's not a deal breaker for me at this point. We're running the higher horsepower. That's what we wanted. We want speed through the corners,
Yeah, I'd rather the higher horsepower and throttle control than all out speed. I think it's funny that somebody will sit there and complain that we're not going fast enough at these tracks, and then in the next breath they'll say their favorite track is Martinsville.
Yeah.
I mean,
where you're going 55 miles an hour in the corner.
Yeah, like but I mean, that's always been consistency's not necessarily been a NASCAR fan strong point anyway. So
Or
kind of like
NASCAR.
the sport, yeah.
Yeah. In general.
Yeah. We did get some retirement news, James, during the off season.
Yeah.
Old Eric Almirola going to wrap it up at the end of the year.
Yep.
Which
surprised?
Yeah.
I mean, he's entering his technical prime. I mean, he's 38.
So I think I'm surprised, James, because it's at least
young.
I think I'm surprised that it's Almirola's decision. I'm not surprised that this is his last season in Cup. Yeah, I know, within reason. I'm not surprised this is his last season in Cup, but I'm surprised that it's an announcement of a retirement and not just a Matt DiBenedetto doesn't have a ride at the end of the season type thing.
Yeah, and part of me wonders, like, Smithfield came to him and said, "Hey man, we got 1 year left in this thing.
Yeah.
You can find sponsorship on your own, or this is it for us." And I part of me wonders if that's the deal there, where he's like, I'm not going to fight this.
Right.
Smithfield's been good to him for a long time, and they've been riding with that guy for quite a while. So,
if it wasn't, no, Almirola's not a bad driver. And obviously he won.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Won a few races this year, or last year.
Yeah.
He's not a bad driver by any means. He earned a spot in Cup. He got an opportunity with a top-notch team, maybe a bigger team than what he might have deserved, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he's certainly got the chops to be there. In my talking him up here, I've lost my butt point.
Well, I was going to say, I was looking at some statistical comparisons with him, and the one guy that kind of is a little bit better career-wise, but I feel like kind of fits the mold a little bit, is Kyle Petty.
Yeah, I was wondering. I
I
figured that's where you're going to go.
I think Kyle Petty and Eric Almirola have a very similar trajectory. They both have a top 5 finish in points, and you wouldn't even think that these guys were top 5 Cup Series, championship contenders
Right.
at points in their career. And Eric definitely snuck one in there, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of the problem. He's not a Hall of Famer, but a dang good racer. And, we got to give him a little bit of credit too, where a lot of drivers didn't survive the economic collapse in the late 2000s. This dude battled, found a sponsor, got to Richard Petty Motorsports after a really tough breakup with Joe Gibbs and the collapse of DEI, and made a dang fine career out of it, and won races along the way. And that's, I think, something that should be definitely be applauded for how well he was able to hang on and become a great veteran in the sport. You know, and now it's kind of like Carl Edwards in a way where he's getting out before it's too late, I guess. I don't know.
Without Smithfield, I mean, Almirola is probably not still a Cup Series driver.
No,
but good on them for staying loyal to him, and good on him for staying loyal to them. You know, it's James. I was watching some old videos the other day on YouTube, and it's you kind of forget how long of a career he's had. I mean, he's been around the sport for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you mentioned DEI, you mentioned Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, he's been through a few teams, and you know,
and got treated really like, I don't want to say he got treated bad, but he got put in some really tough spots, and he battled through all of it. Well, Denny Hamlin won Eric Almirola's first Xfinity Series race. You know, and then, you know, he had to split time with you know, is Mark Martin going to retire or not? You know, he did that at DEI for a while, and but yeah, that's all, you know, all in the past. He became a full-time driver and was pretty darn good.
Well, and we've seen drivers go to Petty as you know, an end of their career, last ditch grasp to stay relevant in the sport. And he went there and got hurt there, and still was able to come up with something better out of the deal. So you know, if that doesn't say something alone there, that he was able to pull out of that and get the opportunity at Stewart Haas again, the money backing him helped. But you know, it's sad anytime somebody retires. I like the fact that at least on the face of it, it seems like he's doing it under, you know, his own decision and not somebody else's. It's always better when somebody chooses to retire than they get pushed out of the sport. So well, whether he saw the writing on the wall or not, good on him for taking the leap. And you know,
well, and I think for him too, you know, a lot of drivers get pigeonholed with lower level teams, and they you know, sometimes they elevate themselves and you don't see their statistical profile really move. But Eric Almirola was just your average Joe driver with Petty. He gets to Stewart Haas Racing, Eric, and he is, you know, 17, 12, and 18 top 10s those first 3 years with a win. His average finish jumped up 6 positions that first year. I mean, you're looking at a guy who got in better equipment and the performance jumped.
Yeah.
He wasn't a negative driver.
No, he had some struggles there, but not any more than the rest of the team did.
All right, and remember how that 10 car ran before he got there. I'll just leave it at that. Right. We know who drove it. We know who drove it before him.
Right.
But you know, he got there and the performance in that car immediately got better.
Yeah.
Could other drivers have done better? Yeah, of course. But you know, not every driver could do better. He's probably a 15 to 20 type of driver, but you know, that's, you know, do your best with what you got, and he definitely did.
Yeah. I mean, he was in the conversation.
Yep.
You know, let's put it this way. You compared him to the previous driver of the 10 car. The previous driver of the 10 car, 20th place finish was a good day. 20th place finish was not a good day for Eric Almirola.
That's right. He expected to be top 15 every week.
Yep. Yeah, arguably a top 10, top 15 driver every week. So, you know, good on him. We kind of saw the writing on the wall, I think a little bit earlier with some decisions that were made at Stewart Haas as far as test drivers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So not terribly surprising to see Almirola heading out, but
well, and I was going to bring up too, I heard this on Gluck's pod, but Tyler Reddick's a free agent, and if there's a seat open at a place like this, depending on what kind of funding you got, that's a nice option to keep yourself kind of open.
He's gotta be like the most in-demand guy as a free agent, because that kid has some skill.
Yeah, if you value what Kyle Larson brings,
right,
you've got, like, you know, not like saying lesser version doesn't seem right, but
no,
he is a lesser version of Kyle Larson, but he's of the mold, right? He is of that wheelman type, and if you can get him in a top 4 team, you know, car, that's something to keep an eye open.
Yeah.
To keep an eye on, I should say. And like you said, you got Ryan Preece there as the super sub for the season. That's a nice option as well, because he can really drive. He's a solid driver. He's an Eric Almirola type, honestly.
Yeah.
So he fits the mold right there. think of it that way.
I could see Ryan Preece really, really fitting into that. Even if Ryan Preece doesn't get an opportunity at a Cup Series ride in the future as a result, I could see Ryan Preece making a really good career and really helping Stuart Haas by being a test driver for them.
Yep.
We've seen. I'm trying to think of names off the top of my head right now, but I can't think of them. But some for other teams.
The best one ever is Landon Castle.
Yeah, Landon Castle's a good one.
He was the best test driver of all time, and Hendrick Motorsports gave him a title ring for his contributions. So.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
yep.
I mean, you don't hear about him as much because it's not talked about a whole lot. These drivers in these roles, but you see several of these ex-drivers in these testing roles where they either run simulators or run the cars in testing for the big dogs, and it's just another set of eyes and ears and another butt in the seat to give that extra experience to these guys. And again, Ryan Preece, not a bad driver, not a top-notch Cup Series driver, but certainly somebody that's going to contribute to a team like that.
Yep.
We had the Chili Bowl this week, James. I just want to say before we discuss what you want to talk about here on the podcast is the bubble has burst. The bubble has burst. Kyle Larson is no longer winning everything he sits in. I just wanted to throw that out there. Did not win the Chili Bowl. Still finished top 5 though.
Yeah, it wasn't really a contender for the most part, but new team for him. I think he's doing most of his own stuff now. So
I don't know. The bubble's burst.
He'll be back. Yeah, he lost one.
Everything he's touching is not turning to gold anymore.
And for 2022, he's in trouble.
Yep.
Big trouble.
Big trouble.
Kyle Larson. and Chris Bell too. He's in trouble too.
Right.
So,
Tanner Thorson gets the win in the Chili Bowl though.
Pretty cool story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of was forgotten in NASCAR circles, and he had that bad highway accident. But he made a run at NASCAR for a little bit there a few years ago. I don't know what this means for him. I don't know what the Chili Bowl does for guys anymore, Eric. I mean, it's a prestigious race in the dirt community, but Rico Abreu, he's still slinging dirt. Maybe that's Tanner's future, but pretty cool to see a new blood come through and knock out the sitting title holders.
Yeah, definitely. I know there's talk about the streaming. You want to get into the streaming discussion?
I just feel like, I'm stealing this topic from Jeff and Jordan on the Teardown. So if you want to hear a better version of this, go listen to those guys. But they were talking about how streaming for dirt races, it can be very challenging. And I agree, because I looked at some packages for this race for the weekend, and a lot of them I just felt like I was kind of priced out. Even for you and I were talking before the podcast, and even for the month, for me to spend $30 for flow racing is just not right for me right now. So I just found it really cumbersome and hard, and I feel like there's maybe some better ideas out there that could be had for streaming. I don't know. What do you think, Eric? I know you stream more sports than I do, and I do all my sports through streaming, but what are your thoughts on kind of the entry level of getting races to fans?
So I'm struggling with the streaming thing right now because I want streaming to be an alternative to TV, and I want it to be an alternative to TV in saving me money. And right now it's not doing that. I have, as you know, I'm a YouTube TV subscriber. I pay $65 a month or whatever for YouTube TV, and I use it to watch NASCAR. I use it to watch Fox, FX, whatever channel they're putting the race on, Fox Sports 1 or whatever the hell it is this week or this month or this year that they call it. NBC Sports, USA, whatever. And that's it. Otherwise I'm paying $70 a month for a package that's just sitting here. Now I'm a Red Wings fan too. I would like to watch the Detroit Red Wings. I have a subscription through Verizon for ESPN Plus, which carries the NHL games this year instead of NHL streaming service. But as somebody in Michigan, I can't watch the Red Wings games because they're blacked out because they want their money and they want people sitting in the seats, and it's hard to sell out Little Caesars Arena when the team isn't any good, although they're good this year. But YouTube TV doesn't carry Bally Sports, so I can't. The only way I can watch the Red Wings if I stream is to get DirecTV, which is going to cost me $85 a month, plus $10 a month for DVR.
Yep.
And what the hell am I going to do that for when I can get cable for cheaper than that? But I can't watch it on my device. So I don't know. It's just not a good solution right now. I hope they figure this stuff out before we really switch to heavy streaming for NASCAR, or where you're required to go to streaming. I know Supercross is doing it. They tried it last year with Peacock, with several races that you had to watch live on Peacock, or you had to watch it tape delayed on TV. This year they only have one of those instead of 3 or 4. So I've managed to save getting a Peacock subscription until a few weeks into the season. But even that, you know, if NBC would give me all of the races on Peacock, I'd pay for Peacock. And if Fox had a streaming solution that gave me all the races, I'd pay for that. But no, I don't get the network races right now. And I don't get DVR. And it's just, I don't know.
Well,
I will say,
Eric, we're here because the Hall of Fame is on Peacock.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Peacock only.
Right. I mean, I'll say
we're
there. I got the Chili Bowl last year. I think it was Flow Racing last year as well. If it wasn't, it was Speed TV. And they did a great job. I mean, their broadcasting was excellent. It was a great show. I watched it every night. The only reason I didn't get it this year is it was not because of the money. It was because of it was just because of the stuff that I had on my schedule. Yeah. I would have missed the main night, so it wasn't worth it to me. I would already known who won. Yeah. But I don't know, man. It's tough because, like, okay, so Speed 51 TV has the what's the race they do out in Florida for the late models?
The Snowball Derby?
Snowball Derby. They have the Snowball Derby. So last year I got the Snowball Derby, and then I had to switch over to Flow TV to get the Chili Bowl, and then this other network had a bunch of World of Outlaws races, and it's like jumping around with all this. If they just gave me one package, you know, that'd be fine. I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just not a good solution yet, and I don't know that it's anybody's fault necessarily.
Yeah, it's just we're in a clumsy in between period. I don't think we're there yet, but we're almost there. You know, with all this stuff. Sorry,
I felt like I did a lot of rambling there, but
that's good. No, I wanted to put you on the spot, so mission accomplished. You took the brunt of the attack for me, so I'm good. But no, I agree. Like, you know, like you said, Eric, it's an alternative, and I just think we're not quite where we want to be. But I watch all my races on streaming, just because, you know, I'm not going to say exactly how I do it. But.
Well, here's the thing. I have a 50-inch 4K TV that sits in my living room, James.
Yes.
I don't watch anything on it. I hardly ever use it. It's mostly used for my kids to stream Netflix on. I watch almost everything on my iPad. I watch it when I'm out and about. I watch stuff laying in bed. I watch stuff sitting on the couch in another room. So the streaming thing for me works because I'm paying for the fact that I get it on my device versus paying for the content. But again, it gets tough when I'm already paying $65 for YouTube. Now I want to add this other service because I can't watch NHL.
It's a mess.
It's
expensive. Yeah.
I mean, if you want to watch, I have Netflix, and I feel like I'm always grandfathered into a Netflix subscription now.
Yep. And if you have cable, you might not have MAV TV, which honestly didn't have a whole heck of a lot of the Chili Bowl other than the final, which wasn't on Flow Racing. So this was a little bit of a mess. So anyway, it was something I had heard, and I'm like, this is something Eric and I have chatted about in the past. So
yeah.
So there you go.
I could talk about it forever. I mean, there's just no good solution right now, and until somebody comes up with one, I mean, the problem is that you're still at the mercy of these networks, and they're not going to give. I mean, we just had the YouTube TV debate with NBC last year. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know what the solution is, man. But what it comes down to is when NASCAR signs their next TV contract, hopefully they retain streaming rights and can do their own thing, rather than have to go through a company. But then that's a fortune for NASCAR to deal with. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Yep. That beats me. Hence the reason that we're the two people rambling about it.
Right. Right. Last on the list of discussion tonight is the Hall of Fame, which, as James mentioned, is occurring tonight.
Yes,
Right. It is. I wasn't even paying attention.
No, well, I think it airs on Friday, or over the weekend.
Yeah.
Again, we go back to streaming.
Yeah.
But no, they're the class of 2021, will take place on Friday.
The biggest thing I want to say about this is good on the Hall of Fame for agreeing to allow Mike Stefanik's wife to give a speech.
NASCAR, thank you.
Completely ridiculous that was in the rules that she couldn't do that. Completely ridiculous that Liz Allison didn't get to give one for Davey. Just stupid. Come on, guys.
What a dumb rule. I know it's not that long of a speech, for God's sakes. Like, let them. And it's 3 people going in this year. So
yeah.
Good grief.
Are we worried about taking up too? We don't have a broadcast window we got to fit into. It's on freaking Peacock.
It's on Peacock. That's right. Are they gonna play off Mike's wife on the? Well, come on. I mean, come on.
Right.
I'm glad. You know what though? I'm glad they fixed it. They did the right thing. What? Honestly, NASCAR keeps like stubbing their toe on the coffee table all like this last couple of months.
Yeah.
Between the paint scheme stuff, I mean, it seems like they're always stubbing their toe on the coffee table, but this last one was really like, what are you doing? This is dumb. What a dumb rule. But it's fixed. So anyway, Dale Jr., Mike Stefanik, and the legendary Red Farmer going into the Hall of Fame on Friday. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Obviously, the big story, Dale Jr. Going into the Hall of Fame. We've had a chance to talk about this for a couple of years because it was supposed to happen last year and delayed because of COVID. James, I know you like to joke about Junior's worthiness of the Hall of Fame, and we go back and forth on it and all that. But I mean, it's a big deal for NASCAR. He is the all-time, pretty much most popular driver. Big day for the sport for him to finally be in the Hall of Fame. Right?
It's huge, and there's a lot of guys who have gotten into the Hall of Fame, and NASCAR likes to have the living legend who can go out and kind of market the Hall of Fame the year that they're elected. And there's no better guy there's nobody in NASCAR who will do the job better than Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Right.
He is going to sell the Hall of Fame, and Eric, he's already doing it. I was looking at his Twitter, and he's not putting himself ahead of Red and Mike. He is like pushing out content on Twitter about these other 2 guys who are going in the class with them. And it's such a classy move on his part. I just think that he cares about this sport more than probably anybody. And it's awesome to see, I joke that he's not a first ballot guy, but obviously he's the first ballot guy and a legend. And I'm really glad that he's going to be around for a while to be here for the sport. 'Cause unfortunately his dad wasn't able to be here. And Dale's going to be a great spokesperson for the sport, and getting him into the Hall of Fame. Now we get to say NASCAR Hall of Famer Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Right.
And that carries a lot of weight, for people who may not be super fans of NASCAR, but people know what the Hall of Fame is, in any sport. So that it's really cool that he's going to get to do that and help, spread the word of the sport.
Yeah. Junior did a lot for the sport after his dad died, whether he wanted to or didn't want to. Yeah. Certainly gave the Earnhardt fans someone to follow. Arguably, without someone like Dale Jr., I think the sport would have suffered a lot more with the death of Dale Earnhardt. I mean, look, I've never been one of those people that believes a whole sport rides on the shoulders of one person, but I was at races where Dale Earnhardt crashed and half the stands left. Yep. So to have somebody to fall back on when Dale died, Junior did a lot for the sport. He did a lot to keep those fans happy, give them something to cheer for. He did not have the success, obviously, that he would have liked to have. I think he's one to admit that he didn't live up to the expectations that he should have. I think he'd tell you that himself. But I think that all that Junior has done for the sport as a driver, I think he's done almost equal to that as a broadcaster and an ambassador to the sport just in the few years since he retired, at least as much. And then he's got way more to do. Like you said, big cheerleader for the sport. Just somebody that, you can't go wrong putting somebody like Dale Jr. in the Hall of Fame.
His work is only half done.
Yeah.
He's got a long way to go. and it's great that he's going to be around to do it. And he's passionate about it. You know, we've seen guys retire and not come back around, and you know, we're even seeing it a little bit with Jimmy Johnson. Like, he's moved on to do other things, and I know he'll come back at some point, but you know, we haven't heard from Jimmy on the NASCAR side hardly at all since
Right.
Since he's left. Carl Edwards, the same thing. Haven't really seen him much. But Dale Jr. is not going to do that. He's going to be here. He's going to be in the TV booth. He's got that going for him. He's just an all out, you know, he's the guy. He's the guy, man. There's only the only way I can describe Dale Jr. for people, and you know, you may be like Ranger and never been to a race before, but when Junior took the lead at Michigan that year, I was there in 2012, and was going to win that race. Eric, I've never been to a sporting event like it. The stands were just rocking, and it was just pandemonium. And I was mad because Tony lost to him that day, but you know, I remember that fondly now, and I'm glad I was there to witness something so cool. I can only imagine what a Daytona 500 win would have felt like when that guy won, because I was there when he finished second to Jimmy Johnson, and it was going crazy for him. So,
or better yet, taking the lead at Talladega. You know,
yep.
I mean,
100%.
Because the TV broadcast alone was incredible enough when that would happen.
Oh man, yep. Yeah, he put the sport on his back and carried us along, and I agree with you 100%. We wouldn't be what we are today. You know, we were always going to fall off when Dale passed. It was not going to be a good outcome no matter what. But Dale Jr. definitely helped, you know, bridge that gap. And I think a sport, if you want to look at a comparison, a little bit, there's only ever been one Tiger Woods, and when he had that car accident last year, the PGA Tour kind of scrambled, and they're still like, holy crap, we have a sport without our icon like looming now.
Right.
And NASCAR didn't have a transitional period, man. All of a sudden Dale Earnhardt Sr. was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this kid, a young man who was younger than me right now, and just did it for us, and thankfully he did, and we owe him a great debt for that. For sure.
Yeah, again, awesome that Dale Jr. is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Certainly something that we all saw coming long before it was announced. So good that we're finally going to beat COVID. I use in quotation marks and get him in there. So
yep.
With that, James, any other news that we have missed? I know there's a bunch, but any other news we care about that we've missed?
I'm looking at the Twitters, but no, we haven't missed a whole heck of a lot. The last couple of weeks have been kind of quiet. I think for us, it's just gearing up for what's coming here in the next couple of weeks. Coliseum.
Yeah, for sure.
In Daytona.
You got any shout outs this week, James?
Yeah, I do. Well, I wanted to say thanks again to Ranger.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what's funny? So my shout outs this week are kind of tied to Ranger coming on the pod, because I have a few people I know who actually listen. And I should have told this to Ranger while he was on, but he'll hear this. I know he'll listen. That he's kind of like this mythical figure in the fantasy league, because you know we have people who play with us,
right?
And they're like, "No way, you got Ranger coming on!" So, told a couple of people, and it was just kind of cool. So I just want to shout out. You guys know who you are, who are listening. Thanks for always tuning in when we do an episode. And honestly, Eric, I can feel my voice going out, which means that we have not done enough of these, and I need to start training to get back into the groove.
Yeah, I hear you. My shout out this week, James, I've shouted him out a few times, and I believe I've bashed him a few times too. The Iceberg on YouTube. I've loved some of his videos and hated some of his videos, but he did one this week that I watched, and I found it incredibly interesting. He asked his viewers what they thought was the greatest Daytona 500 in history. And this one, we could go round and round with this forever, because he gave some great examples in this video of choices that people have made from, of course, the 2001 Daytona 500, which probably was one of the best races ever, minus the last quarter of a lap. One of them that was referenced was the 2011 Daytona 500 with Trevor Bayne's win in the tandem draft. The 79 Daytona 500, I think, was the one when Richard Petty and David Pearson crashed coming to the line. Just there have been some really epic Daytona 500s. The year that Mark Martin beat Kevin Harvick, or Kevin Harvick beat Mark Martin by inches with Boyer flipping across the line.
Yep.
The Sterling Marlin pulling the fender out deal in 2002 that Ward Burton won. I mean, it's hard, and I won't start this conversation because we've already been here long enough tonight.
Yeah.
But definitely go give it a watch if you don't follow the Iceberg on YouTube. Great examples of the greatest Daytona 500. And James, I don't know. I don't have an answer because there's been some really good ones.
If I were older, my choice would probably be different, and probably would be Cale and Bobby fighting.
Yeah.
On the backstretch.
The first televised one, first flag live one.
Yeah. But for me, it's Dale Senior 98. That was just such an iconic win.
See, it's hard for me because I have never watched the entire race. I think I've told this story on here before. I was grounded, and so I did not get to watch the race live. I've watched the abbreviated version that NASCAR sold on iTunes. You could watch like hour-long versions of the races. So I've watched that, but never watched the full race. I don't know, man. I kind of feel like I'm on board with the whole 2001. That race was incredible.
It was.
And you could argue that what happened on the last lap makes it more epic, just, minus the tragedy of it, just the fact that it was such a pivotal moment in the history of NASCAR too. But, the DI cars getting the 1-2 finish, Michael Waltrip getting his first win in the Daytona 500, just the incredible aero package they had for that race. The racing that happened went all day long, nonstop. I don't know, man. It was a good one.
Yep. Yeah, Harvick and Martin is a really good one. But it's 98 and 01 are probably the most two famous races. Like if you went to a non-NASCAR fan, I feel like 2001 would probably be mentioned first, but 98 would be right there because people will remember that Dale Earnhardt won that race somehow.
Yeah.
They're probably hand in hand, I would say.
I would
good
argue,
discussion though. I like that one.
I would argue as far as meaningful Daytona 500s, the most meaningful Daytona 500 moment is 98 for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
So even if you weren't an Earnhardt fan, man, that was special.
Well, and you have the thing with 98 is you had, obviously 20 years of trying, right?
Yeah.
But 97 was an epic disaster for Dale, and the car was completely crushed, and it was just his iron, the old iron head, right? He came back out there with that crushed up car,
right?
And he finally got done the next year. So, that's a great one. I'll have to go check that out. Thanks for the suggestion. That's a good one.
No problem. One that wasn't referenced in the show was the year that Darrell Waltrip won it. Still love the Victory Lane interview with Mike Joy. I won the Daytona 500. I won the Daytona 500. This is the Daytona 500, right?
And that was the Darrell Waltrip we got in the booth. For
yes,
20 years.
Yeah, he was good in small doses, but not so much for entire broadcasts.
Right.
I believe you have a Jackass Corner, James. I don't have one, but I believe I might have helped influence one.
You
today.
did. Well, so you sent me down the rabbit hole of Natalie Decker TikToks, and I know I'm not a TikTok user.
I knew it was coming. I still took a drink and about choked on it.
I was thoroughly annoyed, but Natalie Decker's not the jackass. You are for doing that to me. Such a
that's disappointing because I was trying to come up with a reason why you could be my jackass.
It was such a jackass thing to do. And I got down the rabbit hole. I'm like, damn it! I saw the first one. I'm like, and then I went back to it like an idiot. So maybe I'm the jackass.
I think you are. So I am a TikTok user. I do not post on TikTok, but I waste way too much time watching TikToks. And today, just out of nowhere, Natalie Decker pops up.
There she was.
It was. I'm trying to think. Was it the one that it was not the one that I sent you. I found that one after having to explore further because, of course, I had to. But when I saw it, I'm like, this is a double whammy. This is TikTok, which I already know James hates, and it's Natalie Decker, which I know is going to get a rise out of him. So let me just send this.
Chuckling the whole time you were doing it.
Oh, probably. I loved it. I was so happy, and I think I got the response I was hoping for.
It was great. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You made me agitated, which I know is a personal goal of yours. So
Yes,
I appreciate it.
That is always my goal.
Congratulations.
Especially,
you did it.
Especially on the day of the podcast.
Eric, I feel like we're both like limping to the finish line on this. We are so out of practice.
I'm a little distracted, and I'll tell you why when
because I'm chugging water. I'm chugging water trying to get my voice back. Oh man.
So before we wrap up here, James, I just want to point out I just went to NASCAR.com. 18 days, 20 hours, 36 minutes before the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum.
Thank God. Racing.
I am ready. So here's the deal, guys. We're recording the podcast tonight. We're going to take next week off. James and I haven't discussed this yet. And more than likely, we will be back the following week, the first week of February, to preview the Clash and get the season underway. So we'll be back with a new album cover for the podcast. I don't know if they still call them album covers anymore.
This is my like one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
Because Eric does his reveal.
Did I show you what it was yet?
Don't show me. I want to see it.
I feel like I showed you what the picture was, but maybe
not. You might have. I don't recall it. So
I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't slapped the logo on it yet, but I'm pretty happy with it.
Let's do it. Yeah, I can't wait. I want to see it pop up in my feed.
The last 2 years have been iPhone photos because of limited access due to COVID. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So February 6th is the Busch Light Clash at the Coliseum. So we'll preview that heading in. Like I said, we'll be off this week. If you want to chat, or off next week, sorry. If you want to chat with James during the week and maybe get his thoughts on the upcoming season, how can they do that, James?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can follow me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can follow the podcast on Facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is TheSuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcasts there, old episodes, show notes, links to old episodes, links to stories we discussed, all that stuff, past race coverage, etc. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And with that, we will be back in 2 weeks to preview the Clash and get the season underway. I can't wait, man. I can't wait. It's almost here. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.